This conference will now be recorded.
Well, talk about getting here early. So let me go set up the live stream over on the other side.
Hey, Craig.
Thank you.
That's why I was early.
Well, this is my birthday party.
Yeah.
Many happy returns.
Yeah. So what's on everybody's mind today?
My mind is tired today. Too much on my mind.
My mind is tired every day.
I'm trying to help a friend find a 1950 census entry,
Yeah.
and I have come to the conclusion that that side of the street was not enumerated in 1950. Anywhere.
Are you sure it's in the same enumeration district?
Yes. I found all the rest of it. I've got the map. It's right smack dab in the middle of the enumeration district, so it didn't slide off into one of the neighboring ones. It's in exactly the same place it was in 1940, different ED, of course, but that's understood. But none of the addresses on that side of that street are in the census. I've looked by name, I've looked by address, I've looked on 4 different sites.
Okay.
So has my friend.
So in the 1940 census, find the people on that street, not the person you're looking for, but their neighbors on either side, and go look for them.
I think she did that, but I'll try it again.
I mean,
But
that's what
I have gone through. I've gone through 4 EDs, and so did she, looking line by line at the addresses, and none of them are on that side of that street, which is a long street in Brooklyn. Not like one of mine out in the country.
Justin Scott.
Excuse me, my son is calling me for my birthday. I'm on YouTube. Do you want to be on YouTube? Okay. So happy birthday to me. I'll call you later. Okay. Bye-bye. My daughter hasn't called me either, so, you know.
Don't they pay attention to your calendar?
They don't have my calendar. I don't want my kids knowing what I'm doing.
Well, that's a good point.
I mean, really, any more than they want me knowing what I'm doing, what they're doing. Anyway, I'm trying to get this set up so I still have a few minutes. Are you almost done the next book?
I'm on the queues.
Well, then you're almost done.
Yeah. Of course, then I have to sort it, but that's no big deal. Word does that for me.
Okay, that should take care of that. So I can notify people again, you know, so that there aren't just the same, not that I'm against the same 6 people that always show up, don't misunderstand. It's that all we ever have is the same 6 people.
Well, I know of another one who's coming who doesn't usually, so.
Yeah, me too.
She thought it was yesterday.
Well, see, yesterday I put out the announcement for today.
Yeah.
I take one day off every month.
I know you do. But she was confused. She sent me a note and asked if I was coming. And I said, yeah, but it's not today, it's tomorrow. Oh, okay. So she should be here, but
Right.
she's in California. So
Well, I found a new and interesting thing. I was visiting my sister, and she pulled out an old quilt, which I had not seen for very many years. And here is, I hope you can see this.
oh, that's pretty.
That is really good. What is that a checkerboard or a chess set or what is that?
It's a checkerboard with stars in the different squares.
Oh, okay.
Very pretty.
That is pretty. Did it win the county fair?
What?
Did it win the county fair?
No idea. However, the really interesting thing with it is the card with the information. And apparently this quilt was made by Lucinda Curley Team. Remember her?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought this was made by my grandmother. But apparently it's a bit older than that.
I guess I really need to put that team family thing together because I'm finished it. I just haven't written it up in my head yet.
Uh-huh.
Hi,
'Cause
Jennifer.
I think I found some things that you didn't know about,
Okay, that's great.
but we'll see. I'll put it back on my list of things to make sure I work on. I've got about 40 projects going on right now. What people
Last count, you said it was 43.
Well, I've actually answered a few things,
Oh, good.
so just not very many, right, Jennifer?
That's okay. I know you're busy, Craig.
Well, I live busy, but that's okay. So the Trudy here is the Trudy of the Jacob Engelbrecht series.
Meow meow.
Meow meow, yeah, and other things. She does books on Granville County, North Carolina, the Engelbrecht stuff, and one other thing that's escaping me right now. What's the piece I'm missing?
The tax list book on it's
The tax
Frederick
list
County.
book for Frederick County.
Yeah.
Is that 1889?
Yes, it's 1889, which makes it a substitute for the 1890 census.
Right. And there's another topic for a video, substitutes for the 1890 census. No, I mean, some things I know I can do right off the top of my head, and other things I have to research.
Yeah, I understand that. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the reasons that when I had that, it was back when the courthouse decided that it didn't need all the stuff and they put the stuff out on the street and people came around and grabbed what they wanted and left the rest for somebody else, or at least until they got their trucks filled up. And the one guy who took all the tax books had a yard sale at the bowling alley in Frederick. And that's where I got that one book.
Ah. So, what about the other ones?
What other one? So you're speaking to me, sir?
I am. Because you obviously got 1 year, but obviously there were other years.
Well, I only got one because I wasn't sure at that point what I would be doing with them. This was probably before I even started the paw print stuff.
Oh, so you had that book a long time.
Yeah, I had that book a long time before I even thought about it. I've got a bunch of account books from, well, Wonder Book and Video from businesses from downtown.
So are you going to put those together?
I haven't decided.
Please decide.
Probably, but the one you told that I was told to get together first was the funeral book.
Yes.
That was the one that I was told that I need to transcribe next.
Okay.
But the only one I really consider a book is the Lance book because I had to do research for that one.
Right. Well, but you did that one.
Yes, that one's done too. And of course, my big thing to work on now is my webpage.
Right.
And you're listed.
Okay. And her webpage is comet-lines.com. Comet-lines.com.
The echo.
Why all of a sudden did I reverb?
I'm going mute.
Probably because I got too close to one computer other than the other since I've got two running.
So, Craig, there's a new book that was released today. I think it was released today, but I saw a posting about it. It's the Pennsylvania Vital Records Research by Denys, Denys Allen.
I saw the notice too.
Yeah.
I didn't. Pennsylvania Vital Records. I wonder how it's different than John Humphrey's book on the county research. Who's it by?
Denys Allen.
Oh, okay. I'll talk to Denise about it so I can talk about it. She's really into central Pennsylvania.
Okay. I saw that and I thought you'd be interested maybe in it.
You're absolutely right.
Do you need to have a
Trudy,
birthday every month, Craig?
Trudy, do you know Daphne?
Hi, Daphne. I'm not sure if I know.
She lives in Middletown.
In Maryland.
Yeah, she knows.
Well, I used to live in Mount Airy, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sister-in-law lives in Middletown.
Okay.
Barbara Long.
Don't think I
I'm
know
sorry,
her.
not Middletown. It'll come to me.
Well, I mean, you guys were within stone's throw of each other for years.
Happy birthday, Craig.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
I'm going to hear that all night long.
Where's the cake?
So actually, the cake is still in the freezer, left over from the wife's birthday. So that way I don't have to worry about it. She's in Florida. So what's up with you, Michael?
I was going to wish you happy birthday, but I don't think I will now since you don't want to hear it.
And you, Mr. Roby, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Craig?
I'm doing fine. So what do we want to talk about now? Or did I skip over something that we wanted to talk about and have already forgotten in my old age? The noise is deafening.
Well, this is my first one, so I didn't know what goes on in these. So
All that really goes on is more like a mini Stump Craig where people just bring questions and we work on them all together.
oh, okay,
It's sort of like crowdsourcing genealogy problems.
got it.
Okay, I've got one for you. I've got this ancestor who was one of those people that if you got in at the right time in the DAR, you were okay, but nowadays you have to prove his record. He started out in Charles County, Maryland, and ended up in Granville County, North Carolina. according to hearsay, and he's still approving applicants to the SAR, but not the DAR.
Well, they have two different systems of approval. So
I know. I got his records, and it was really funny looking at it to see that they had something written for Granville County, and they put one line through it and then hand wrote in 5th Maryland Regiment. Where should I start looking for him, in North Carolina or Maryland?
well, you should start looking. Well, first of all, you don't know when he moved to Granville.
This is true.
So the first thing you have to probably establish is when did he arrive in Granville?
Okay.
So if he arrives in Granville after 1782, then you need to focus on Charles for sure, Charles County for sure. I would start with Hank Peden's book on Revolutionary Patriots of Charles County, Maryland, and see what he has to say. But since you've got the hint of the 5th Maryland Regiment, I would go to Fold 3 and look at the 5th Maryland Regiment and see what they see if he's there in the 5th. And I would also look to see, do you know when he died?
1830?
So he's probably, if he's in the 5th, he's in the Continental Army. So he should be eligible for a pension in 1818 if he served 3 years or through the war. If he actually served less than that, he wouldn't have been eligible for a pension until 1832, the militia pension. And for those Continentals who didn't serve long enough or didn't serve through the war. So he wouldn't be there. But I would still look to see if there's a pension. The next thing I would look for is I would go out to BLM and see if he got any bounty land for his
But
service.
he
Or
stayed
if
at
his heirs.
Granville.
I'm sorry, what?
He could have sold the bounty land if he got a warrant for it, right?
Well, but see, having the bounty land is proof of service
Okay.
because he had to prove service in order to get the bounty land. So you'll have in the bounty land, although it was assigned to somebody else, the patent will be made out to him and he will assign the patent to somebody else. So it will say, whatever his name is, Private Revolutionary War. It won't tell you about where his service was, except if it was Continental Maryland, it will say he was in the Maryland line. It won't say what regiment, but it will say Maryland line, or it might say militia. But so you always want to go out for the bounty land, even if it's assigned, because you never know what you're going to learn. Now, you have to remember that the bounty land is going to be 1855 and he's long dead, but his heirs would be eligible for the bounty land. So that's something else you're looking for. So what you're looking for is actually him being the second person from the bottom named, or the first person on the bottom, and then his heir is the second person.
Okay. Thanks. How about history books on Charles County?
There are two that are available. One is a bicentennial history, so that probably might be the one to look for.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can get their names for you and their authors. So one is Charles County, Maryland History, and the other is History of Charles County, Maryland, written in its tercentenary year of 1958. I would probably also want to look at Charles County, Maryland marriage references and family relationships, just to get a handle on where he is in the county. Because remember, these militia units, he belonged to a militia unit before he belonged to a Continental Line Unit, you didn't just go from home to the Continental Line Unit. You were in the militia first because everybody was in the militia. So the only way he could end up directly into a Continental Line Unit would be if he like turns 18 and joins right up.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
sure. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
I've been working a lot with the Freedmen's Bureau record on family search and ancestry, but I know there's a lot that have not been microfilmed or digitized. Have you worked at all with them with those records at Anara?
Nara, yes. They're actually in two places.
Okay.
They are at Nara and they're also at Howard University.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the headquarters records are at Howard. I have not used them there, but there are just a lot of Freedmen records there. The best person to talk to about Freedmen records is Shamil Jordan in New Jersey. She's touched them everywhere.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah, I know Shamil. I was on the board with her of the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania. Yeah, I'll talk to Shamil.
Yeah, she probably knows those better than anybody. Which place are you looking for?
I'm researching in Loudoun and Fauquier County, so I'm doing Leesburg,
Sure.
Alexandria, all that vicinity, DC.
Well, for that area, you want to look for books by Provine, Dorothy Provine,
Okay.
because she did the Free Register of Alexandria and the Free Register of DC.
Okay.
She used to be the DC archivist until she retired and had the audacity to die.
Don't you hate that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
We
What's that?
published some bank records about 20 years ago. And the interesting thing about the bank records are, like everything that it appears to be, quote, African American, it's full of white people. So
Right.
like Bird and Smith stuff on North Carolina, county level books on, I forget what they're called. There's a lot of them. Slaves and free persons of color. That's why I couldn't. It was too easy. So a lot of counties have been done, and but they're full of white names as well as African American names.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm slowly working on a project which hopefully will be a book, which I should probably talk to you at some point about maybe using Heritage Book as a publisher, but that's a few years maybe
What's
down
the
the
title?
line. I don't know the title of the book yet, but my project, my ancestors enslaved about 100 people on the in Fauquier County on the Loudoun County line on Route 50.
Yeah.
So I'm researching the enslaved people. I'm tracing them to the present, and I'm doing all their family history, and so it's now kind of turning into a half genealogy book, half a narrative with my thoughts and feelings on how I got into it.
You just have to remember when to cut it off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be your biggest problem.
What's the
Because-
slaveholder's name?
Delaney.
And there's a book out there on the Delaney's already. And weren't they at a place called Wellborn?
Yes. Yeah. So those are cousins to my Delaney's.
Okay.
They lived. It's about a mile or two away. That house. And Catherine, we should also probably talk at some point because you posted something, a comment being about being related to the Baileys in Fauquier
Right.
County.
Yeah.
I
Both
found,
Loudon and Fauquier.
yeah,
And Alexandria.
Yeah.
because I
Well,
found quite a
I don't think they
bit.
lived there. They just had a store in
Okay.
Alexandria.
Okay. They had to live there because, at least temporarily, because they couldn't walk from Loudon to, they couldn't ride their horse from Loudon to Alexandria in a day and still
Yeah,
work.
but I've never found any of them living there. Maybe it was employees or something. They also had a store down in Stafford.
Hmm. So do you have any account books for them?
Not that I've found yet.
But you've looked for
I've looked for everything for 40 years.
them?
I've been trying to search for plantation account books. I traced one to 2015 and a sale on, I think it was Cowan's Antique, and that's as far as I got. They wouldn't tell me who they sold it to or anything, but I would love
So
to
you
get my
want
hands on
you
that.
want to check Duke, the manuscript collection at Duke University,
Okay.
if you haven't done that yet, and see if there's anything there.
I mean,
And you also
I've
want to
checked
check.
I've checked like the major, like Archive Grid, things like that, but I guess it's probably not on there if it's
Yeah,
new.
you want to check the manuscript collections at Duke, and you want to check the manuscript collection at the University of Virginia.
Okay. Making a note right now. Thank you.
I
Mhm.
haven't seen any Delaney's and connections that I've found so far.
Yeah,
The Baileys.
it's not a Dulaney Bailey connection by family. It seems like the Dulaneys sold some of their enslaved people to the Baileys.
Hmm.
At least there's a fairly lengthy back and forth in the Freedmen's Bureau with the
Hmm.
Baileys.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, I'll if you give me your email address, I can send it all to you if you want.
Where would be a good place to put that?
I think there's a way to chat in here. Probably I can send you.
Yeah, go up to the top, third thing from
Oh yeah, I
the.
see it. Yep.
Oh, that little. Oh, okay, good, found it.
What else we got?
Well, I have a question. You were just mentioning a little while ago that the DAR and the SAR have different criteria. Could
That's
you
not
enlarge?
exactly the right choice of words. They apply. One is stricter than the other in
Uh,
regards to relationships.
okay.
I guess is the simplest way to put it. Um, and they used to be about the same, but in 1973, the DAR changed course and began to be much stricter about proving, in fact, I guess the bottom line difference is, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, is that if you say somebody's related to somebody, the SAR will believe you more than the DAR will.
Okay. Yeah, I've recently been trying to find the parents of my second great grandfather, Jeremiah Williams. And you know, Williams is not an easy name to sort out.
You've
And
never heard me talk about the peso dance, have you?
yes, I have.
Okay.
Anyway, I've got 5 different SAR applications for descent from Thomas Williams, who is suggested by both Ancestry and Family Search and MyHeritage as the father of my Jeremiah.
Okay, but
Now, none of them are giving any
remember in the old
supporting.
days, remember in the old days of the I, what was it called? The IGI.
Yeah,
Remember in the old days of the IGI where we would immediately look at the source, and if it was a family group sheet, we would ignore it. But if it
right.
was a filming, a record filming, we go, hooray! So, I mean, that's pretty much what you have to do is you have to, if they're without sources, they could be the same person in all 3 places saying this, you know, you could be
Yeah.
taking the wrong information and putting it everywhere. The issue becomes one of where does Jeremiah Williams live?
He, just a second. He was born in New York and died in Greenville, Greene County, New York.
Okay, so he's New York, New
Died
York.
in
So
1860.
we have a real problem with New York colonial records. But then you have to deal with how old is he? Is he the right age?
Well, let me just look at, see, I'm looking at this on my iPad, which is a lousy way to do it.
Well,
He was 6 in the 1850 census. This is Jeremiah.
how old he? 86?
In the 1850 census, he was 56.
Okay, so Thomas, you're saying, is the person with the service.
Yeah, Thomas.
Okay. And when
Because
does Thomas die?
what?
When does Thomas die?
1851.
And where is Thomas in the 1840 census?
I have not found him in that. I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, you definitely want to look for
Anyway,
him in the
like
1840s.
Thomas Williams, there's probably 50 or 60 of them.
But in the 1840 census, Revolutionary War soldiers are identified.
Ah, okay.
So go and look. There's a video out there on Samuel S. Head of South Carolina on how to do Revolutionary War research, and just follow the steps that are in that one by one. The first place I would look to differentiate your various Thomas Williams is the 1840 census, because those are where the Revolutionary War soldiers are going to be identified. There's a column specific to them, and you
Okay.
might very well, Thomas, for all you know, in 1840 is in the household of Jeremiah, because
Possible.
a guy that old is probably going to be in somebody else's household. You want
Yeah.
to know whose household he's in. And if it's not Thomas, if it's not Jeremiah, rather, and he's in somebody's household who's the head of household is a Williams, you can assume that that is a son or grandson, maybe, depending on the age,
Yeah.
because otherwise, why would he be there?
Uh,
And
I don't know.
if you can't prove Jeremiah to Thomas, you can prove that person likely to Thomas, and then you have to prove that person to Jeremiah, and
Yeah.
that will get you to Thomas. If he lived to 1851, he likely has a pension.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Have any names of siblings of Jeremiah either?
well, but the point is that if, in fact, if you go to fold 3 and look for that Thomas Williams that you've established from the 1840 census as being in wherever he is, then you then can look for the last or final payment and hope there was a final payment, because the final payment will list all the heirs.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
it may also list the administrator of, the lawyer for, the wife only, but once you have the right Thomas Williams, if the siblings that you'll need to prove to can probably be found on dar.org because of
Uh-huh.
other people who've gone in under that Thomas Williams. Your problem is you can't identify the right Thomas Williams.
Yeah. Now,
So-
the only little tiny clue I've got is that Thomas's wife was named Mary McCabe, and one of Jeremiah's sons has the middle name of McCabe.
Okay, that's good, but it doesn't prove anything.
No, it doesn't. It just makes it a tiny bit more likely.
Right. But I would first go to the 1840 census
Okay.
and then find the right Thomas Williams. Now, you may have more than one Thomas Williams, but you've narrowed the field.
Yeah.
And you're only dealing with a Thomas Williams in New York, so.
Yeah. I'm particularly interested in this because if it's the right guy, it'll get me across the ocean because he was born in Wales.
Okay. You definitely also want to look at the full 3 pensions for Thomas Williams in New York, because if he dies in 1851, he should have gotten a pension. Either he would have gotten a Continental Line pension, doubtful, because it's New York, because they're always militia, because that's the rule. Nothing to, but he lives past 1832, so he has a pension. You also want to look at the bounty land, because if he's alive in 51, there's the kerfuffle in 50 of the 50 Act doesn't deal with the Revolutionary War. It deals with everything but the Revolutionary War. And everybody gets upset. So the 1855 Act does deal with the Revolutionary War, and his heirs probably would know about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason I asked this question originally about SAR versus DAR is that I did try and look him up in the DAR database, and it says that currently the DAR is not recognizing the service of Thomas Williams. Residence in Dutchess County needs to be proved for future applications. Dutchess is right next door to Greene County.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You're not going to base any of your research on what you find in dar.org.
Mm-hmm.
What you're going to do is use it as clues to move forward.
Right.
So, but what they will tell you is if he got a pension or not. So you want to look for the Thomas Williams in dar.org who got pensions.
Okay.
And see what their families look like. Because the DR sorts everything by children.
Uh-huh.
So when you look at there's the top of the page, then you go to the bottom and it lists all the kids that people have come into the DR under. But if you look there in dar.org, most of the time it says that this isn't any good. So, I mean, it doesn't, and it means that you just have to reprove it. That's all, which you would have done anyway. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now
What
I'm
else we got? Huh?
Now I'm echoing.
Huh.
So, Craig,
Yes.
I'm working on my first ever research report. So my cousin, well, it's something that I want to learn to do, but I chose my cousin's father's family, and I have a question and everything, but upon researching, I found out that her grandmother has 12 siblings, not including herself. So this is really fun.
So when you describe siblings, they don't include yourself. That's sort of redundant.
Well, you know what I mean. But yeah. So I am kind of laughing because I chose a rather large family to base my research report on, and it's my first one. But I'm trying and I'm learning a lot. So, and one of our friends
Sure.
from the genealogy chats is helping me. So,
Well, that actually is much better than somebody who has no siblings, or somebody
yeah,
that only has one and they never married and had no children. I mean, I
yeah,
like the concept of, that many siblings, because all of those people know that person. And the likelihood of your being able to find other records that tell you about your person of interest is so much better when they're siblings.
yeah. And all the obituaries that I have found list her grandmother in them and all the other siblings and the parents and everything. So, and they all attended the same church, and so I'm finding a lot of good information.
Well, nothing's worse than all of a sudden they don't list somebody in the obituary. Then you know, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Or was it just a bad editor for the newspaper?
Well, that's true too.
I have a question. It's kind of back along the lines of what Shelley asked because it has to do with what DAR says on the page, and you're going to say, no, no, no more David Wilson. this about David Wilson.
No, I
Okay,
wouldn't.
because I bugged you so much about him. Okay, first I found on Ancestry, I found the uh, what says it's in Tennessee and North Carolina, but I guess it's still North Carolina deeds, grants. And so that one was, I found that. And then I went to David McCorkle's North Carolina land grants, and I found the same thing, but he also had the survey, which was nice. But what I was trying to find on the North Carolina Archives website was that petition where he petitioned the legislature, and you wrote me back and you said he got it because he petitioned the legislature and the legislature had the authority to grant him that 2,000 acres. And I looked, and it's what you, on the video I went back and watched, it said that 2,000 acres was for subalterns and staff officers, and he was called major, but I
Well,
think that was during the revolution. I don't think he was a major in the French and Indian War, but he could have been a subaltern or a staff officer.
well, a major is a staff officer,
Okay, well, see,
and
I
a
didn't know that.
captain, lieutenant, those things are subalterns. In other words, a subaltern is a junior officer.
Yeah,
A major and above are staff officers.
okay. So what
So
I
it's still
wanted to
possible that
find,
it's French Indian War, but the it there's a petition somewhere. You just haven't found it. And
right, because I read,
in order for him to get the land, there had to be a law enacted.
right,
So you
and
need to
that's what I
find the
bet.
law.
Yeah, that's what I've been having trouble on that North Carolina website. I read at least 50 different petitions, but I'm not turning up his. And then I'd have to find where they actually granted it to him. And I'm just having trouble. Well, back to about the DAR. Well, on the references, it says Clark. Now, why couldn't they say the page? Because all I can find in Murdy June Clark is, and well, I know you said something about that you have to check all different spellings, but David
Yeah, but
Wilson, there's not much.
Murdy June Clark's index is on Ancestry. So go to
Right,
the back of the book and look in the index.
right. And the only David Wilson is the one in Berkeley County, South Carolina, which seems awfully far to me from Mecklenburg County, North Carolina.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so I don't think that's him. But then why does DAR on that thing say, well, I guess what I got to do is I have a friend, you met her, Sherry, um, who's a registrar, and she can get into what the DAR registrars can see that I can't see,
Sure.
uh, and see if they say what the reference actually is to Clark. But then it's got these two other book and page numbers for the North Carolina state records,
Right.
but they don't seem to have any connection to how the things are.
Well, you want to make sure you're in the right North Carolina records because there's two different sets.
Okay, because the one I was looking at had nothing like books and divided
Well, they
into
should be
books.
there. I forget what the. Give me a second. I can
Is it
figure
the
out.
digital
Just
North
I just gave
Carolina?
a talk to North Carolina on pre-Revolutionary War records,
Yeah, I watched that.
and in there I talk about the two different sets of records that I'm
Well, I'll
talking
have to go
about.
back and listen to it again.
Because one is colony and state, and the other is something else. I don't go into them very often, so but I can figure it out in a couple of seconds once I get the right material on my screen. I said that so quickly.
Well, I can go back and watch it again.
Yeah, I'll put this up on Just Genealogy once enough time has passed. So one is state records of North Carolina, and the other is the colonial records of North Carolina. So what you want is the colonial records of North Carolina, because that's where the legislative action is published.
In 1784?
Mm-hmm.
He got it in 1784.
Well, I would still look there.
Well, I should look at both of them.
Right. But, is colonial pre-constitution? When does the colonial period end?
I would have said 1776.
No, I would have said 1783.
Well, still, 1783 is before 1784.
Not by much.
Yeah, just look at both of them.
I don't know what years the colonial records of North Carolina cover.
There's a 2-volume set also on pre-statehood records for the United States.
Oh, my other question was, did he get it because he petitioned? He had the nerve to petition, whereas the other ones from French and Indian War didn't get it because they didn't bother.
Yep, that's my sense.
That's what I thought you were saying. Plus, he had been in the legislature in North Carolina, and he had bigwig friends, and that probably also helped him.
Okay, so the colonial records of North Carolina go to 1776. That's volume 1 through 10, and volumes 11 through 26 are titled The State Records of North Carolina, and they go from 1776 to 1790.
Yeah, I think I'm not looking at it now, but I think one of them was volume 12 and the other one was something like 22.
Okay, so those are in the state records.
Okay, thank you. Now I just got to find them on the website.
They're
Also,
on Family Search. Digital
oh, great.
versions can be viewed on Family Search.
Okay, good, because
All
that'll be
28,
easier to find
all
than
28 volumes are there.
great, because that'll be easier than finding them on
By the way,
their
guess
website.
who the author of State Records of North Carolina is?
Some Wilson.
Walter Clark. Remember you said the
Oh,
DAR record said Clark but didn't tell you where?
oh, it's
And you
not
thought
Murdy
that meant
June.
Murdy June Clark, and actually it probably meant Walter Clark,
Walter.
who was the author of the State Records of North Carolina.
Oh, well, that helps a lot. Good. 'Cause I was tearing my hair out with Murdy June.
Well, that's my guess.
Okay,
That's where the
that
Clark came from.
okay. So that whole line is just about. It's not two separate references. It's one.
Right.
Clark with the state records of North Carolina. Okay.
Right. Volumes 1 through 25 are indexed. There's an index on Family Search, index to the colonial and state records of North Carolina, covering volumes 1 to 25 by
Well,
week.
that will include both of them.
Yep. And it's,
Good. As soon
it
as we get through
appears,
here.
so it's on Family Search also. Its number is 660634.
660634.
Uh-huh. Does everybody
That's
know
the
what that number means?
that's the collection number, the
That's the
microfilm number,
catalog number.
catalog.
So you can go to familysearch.org/search/catalog/ that number, and it will take you directly to it.
Great. Thank you very much.
So I don't know anything about Pennsylvania because I don't have family there. But my cousin's great grandfather, he was a mine foreman for the P&R Coal and Iron Company. And then it says in his obituary, he became the superintendent and general manager for the Chestnut Hill Coal Company. And then he was a state mine inspector for the mines for the operations. So are there records on that?
Well, you definitely should be able to find inspection reports that he signed.
Oh.
You should be able to find an appointment because it's a state official. Chestnut Hill is right outside of Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly. So you should be able to find him in the Pittsburgh area. Because he's the superintendent of the P&R Coal Company, you want to look for business records.
Okay.
So they may be, I mean, I don't know, but the first place I would look would be online at Pennsylvania State Archives, see if they're there. And I would go, I would just type P&R Coal and Iron. Is it Iron, Coal and Iron? I would just type that into Google and see if it's got a lineage, who owns it now, what happened to it, where to go. And I will also plug his name into newspapers.com because he's a superintendent. He probably makes noise.
Yeah, I did that and I wasn't really finding anything, but I didn't go really deep into it either. So Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Craig, that makes me think about something years and years and years ago. I remember seeing it. I don't know if it was a book. I don't know if it was a journal article, and it was abstracts of investigations into loyalist merchant claims.
Those would have been done by state.
Yeah, and I want to say what I saw was Virginia, because it talked about so and so moved from this county to such and such county, and that's why it stuck in my head. I probably have a copy in a folder in a box full of other folders, and it's been so long I don't remember it. But you've talked about loyalist stuff before.
Sure. There's two seminars out on legacy, on loyalists, and Ancestry has the AO reports.
Yeah.
So I would look for the guy there. The question is, did he stay, or did he go back away, or did the family stay?
It was, yeah. I can't even remember now why I looked at it.
Okay. So first of all, the state isn't likely to investigate loyalist claims. The British are.
Yeah.
But I would look in legislative petitions in Virginia, and I would look. I would probably just type loyalist claims into the Library of Virginia website and see what pops up. I would also plug the person's name into the Library of Virginia website and see what pops up. Because I mean, that website is really good about names.
Good, thanks.
Anything from you, Dot?
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And I have a book that was printed in 1931. When does it go out of copyright?
5 years. We're up to 26 now, I think.
6.
Maybe 25.
I think we're on 24.
No, we've gone a year past that. I think we're on 25.
Okay.
But I may be wrong, because I usually wait a couple of years after the date anyway.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
But wait, send me an email with the title of the book and the author, because if they didn't renew the copyright, then it's in the public domain now.
Oh, really? It was printed by the Wichita Eagle Press.
Okay, so there's out at let me see if I can get the right place.
Can you say the date again, too?
What'd you say, Trudy?
What date is our book's copyright expired? Is it not renewed?
Well, copyright law is sort of intricate, but the basics is anything, we'll say 1924 today, but 1924 and back is in the public domain. It may be 25, it may be 25 next month, and that's why I'm saying 25, because a month for me is no time at all. But
Thank you.
But there's a renewal process, and that works up until 1978. And it sort of goes to 63. And if you go to it's Stanford University copyright renewals, and you just type in the author the title, search for it that way. And if there's no renewal, that's not a legal no renewal. That's they don't think there was a renewal. So in order to confirm it, you would go to the Copyright Office and to have a copyright search done, which I don't know what that costs. I never do that. But how do you spell Wichita?
Wichita.
Wichit,
A.
Eagle?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't see any results. Newspapers weren't real good at copywriting things anyway. What's the title of the book?
Conquest of Southwest Kansas. By Leola Howard Blanchard. Has my week's ancestors in it, some of them.
And you're saying it's 1931?
Yes.
And the author is Blanchard?
Yes.
And what's her first name?
Leola, Leola.
Spell Leola for me again. I'm sorry.
Leola.
I must be getting old. Not found.
Not allowed to say that, Craig.
Yeah, I know. It's not found. So assuming Blanchard?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not found. So it's likely out of copyright. So if we go to worldcat.org, which is the next thing I do when I search something, and I go find Leola Blanchard, first American woman architects, the genealogy, no, not her, not her.
Leola Howard Blanchard.
She wrote, is her middle initial H?
Howard is the middle name.
Yeah, so she wrote a book called At Rest, The Golden Kingdom of Glippen, Headstone Inscriptions from Cemeteries in Glippen County, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
For the Daughters of the American Revolution. It was published by American Microfilm in 1970. The Conquest of Southwest Kansas, a history and thrilling stories of the frontier life of the state of Kansas. 1931, Wichita Eagle Press.
That's the one I have.
Yeah, now let's see if anybody else has redone it. And it does not appear that anybody has redone it. It's in a lot of libraries, but view all formats and editions. Let's see, 1989 Finney County Historical Society. So they say they copyrighted in 89, but they likely couldn't do that in 89. All the others are 1931. So evidently in 1989, the Finney County Historical Society did it.
So that lasts another 100 years?
No. They can't copyright it on top of that. When it hits 31, that's not a copyright renewal. That's them just printing it and putting a copyright indicia on it. It's unlikely that they have the rights. They published it out of the blue, and they probably don't actually have a copyright. They may have copyrighted an index, which you can't do anyway, an introduction, which you can do. So you'd have to want to look at that. But they're not an heir of Leola Howard Blanchard, and probably, let's see if we can figure out when she died.
I copyrighted an index. It's the only thing that made the will index copyrightable.
Was the introduction.
I thought it was the index.
No, according to the government, there's no intellectual component associated with an index.
Mhm.
But it was my work as opposed to Suzanne's work.
It doesn't matter. To the court, it doesn't matter that it was your work, because it has to do with telephone books. When the telephone companies tried to copyright telephone books, the courts told them they couldn't because there was no creative effort associated with indexing. You're just copying stuff from the pages. That's why people put new introductions in books, because you can copyright the introduction. So she died in 1975. So in 1975, she was of Denver, formerly of Garden City, died Thursday at Westminster, Colorado Elegant Care Center after suffering several strokes. Born 27 June 1886 in Angonia, she was of Quaker parentage, a descendant of early Delaware colonists and the Baltimore Howards. She married Miles A. Blanchard in Cherokee, Oklahoma in 1906. He died in 1965. Let's see if she has any kids. Survivors include a son, Howard, and a daughter, Mrs. Joy Bethelson, and 2 grandchildren. So the best thing you do is find the grandchildren who are her heirs, and they hold the copyright, which they haven't renewed. So you can wait till 31 or get permission from them, probably. But there's no renewal, so theoretically, it's pretty much in the public domain. See, the post 1924 to 1963, if it's renewed, it's not in the public domain. If it doesn't get renewed, it is in the public domain. That's a very simplistic look at it.
Oh.
Okay, I have a question sort of along those lines. I have a family book that was written by somebody related, obviously, and it only has pedigree charts, and he wrote up information on the land records and the probate records and everything for the family members, but there's no sources. And it says 1997, and it was through the Three Rivers Genealogical Society in South Carolina. So what do I want to do? I would like to put in the sources for this information and kind of update it, because it's fairly outdated.
So just go to them. Do they still exist?
Yeah.
And it's Three Rivers
Mm-hmm.
Genealogical Society
Yes.
in South Carolina?
Yeah. It says Joseph E. Baxley, 1997. It's in their publications list.
It is in their publications list. Okay. So they may be adverse to, you could go to them and offer, if your goal is just to update it, you could go to them and offer to update it for them. and have
Okay.
it be one of their publications, if that's what your goal is.
Okay.
That would work, where they just replace this publication with yours because it was up to date.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it just bothers me
What
because
counties is that?
Sumter District? Maybe. Williamsburg, their publications are all over the place. Which one is the one you're talking about?
it's Williamsburg County,
Oh,
Which family?
Baxley,
Baxley? The
Baxley.
Baxleys in Williamsburg County, 1800, 1900, Joseph E. Baxley.
I have the book. I purchased it, but I
Okay.
mean, it looks like it was even done via typewriter. So I mean, it's older and it's not updated, and it doesn't have any sources. It's just
What does it say on the title reverse? Does it say copyright?
it says nothing about copyright on any of the pages at all.
But it was done in 97, so automatically it is copyrighted. So if it had been like that before 1997, it wouldn't be in copyright.
Okay.
So the first thing, we go look for Joseph Baxley in an obituary, because I'm always looking for obituaries of people.
I
And his obituary is hard to tell. Let's try South
I would
Carolina.
just go to them and just talk to them about updating it and putting in the
Yeah,
sources.
see what they have to say.
What was that?
So what's it? Do you have a middle initial for him?
E.
E?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he might live in Lexington, South Carolina.
Oh, all right. I'll have to go look. I'll have to go and see if I can contact them then.
Yeah, if you can't find him in Lexington, let me know. I'll look him up for you.
Okay.
Anybody else? So today you learned my process for finding people who authors books.
I went back and looked, Craig. It wasn't the index, it was the bibliography I did.
Ah, well, that is, the bibliography is in fact copyrightable. Although the difference between a bibliography and an index, from the perspective of creativity, your creativity was how you actually position the elements in each entry. Whereas in an index, it's straightforward, whereas in bibliography, it isn't.
Right. Well, I'm not saying it's braid surgery, but I was proud. I was proud at the time that I got past the copyright office.
Yeah. Well, anybody else? Thank you for all coming and celebrating my birthday. Best birthday party ever. Sorry we didn't have cake. And I will see you next month.
this is the most people we've had.
Yes, I agree. I had hoped we would have 4 times this many, if you want to know the truth. It could be it's
We're
the wrong
working
time
on
of
it.
day.
It's a tough time.
Huh?
It's a tough time.
It is a tough time.
But
Well, I'm opening to changing the time, so I mean, I don't care. My time is
it's
my
hard
own.
because you got the whole 4-hour span you got to think about.
Right. Except you're in California, right?
Yes.
Shelley's in what?
Nevada.
Nevada. You're in Florida. Trudy's in North Carolina. Catherine's in Tennessee. Dot's in Florida. Michael, where are you at?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta. So we're all over the place as it is. But anyway, there were 3 people who came in to the site who didn't come over. Well, 1 did for a while, but 2 of them didn't come in. But anyway, so another month is put to bed. Anybody find last chance for anything new?
The way you're having us, where you show what the link is, and it makes it so much easier than it was to begin with.
Well, I'm working
get
on
here.
it. If you look at how things are going, I have made considerable improvements in regards to the flashcards or whatever, and the descriptions. Now the new ones all have full descriptions that lead to links and other videos and that kind of stuff. It's just a function of going back over time and fixing the others so that they catch up. It's just time consuming.
I like the playlist so that I can find things by topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I did one the other day that had 13 playlists. And then I did one.
Talk about everything.
Yeah, it was full of states. All right, I'll let you all go so I can go edit this thing so I can put it up for tomorrow.
Go thaw your cake.
Yeah, I'll go eat my cake. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.